All right, today we're diving into a real head-scratcher in the airline world, Scandinavian Airlines, SAS. This is a wild story about a legendary airline that was teetering on the edge of collapse, and the absolutely radical plan they came up with to survive. And the central mystery is this: why on earth would an airline get rid of planes on purpose, just so it could grow later? Let's get into it.
I mean, it's a fact. SAS is getting smaller. We're talking about the flag carrier for Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, and they've been actively cutting the number of planes they fly. Now, as you probably know, in the aviation business, a shrinking fleet is almost always a huge red flag, a sign of serious, serious trouble.
But this is where the story gets really interesting. Look, getting rid of old gas-guzzling planes, that makes total sense. But SAS, they got rid of two brand new top-of-the-line Airbus A350s. I mean, that just feels completely backward, right? So what in the world is going on here?
Okay, so to solve this puzzle, first we've got to take a look at what the SAS fleet actually looks like today, after all these moves. It's definitely a lot leaner for sure, but trust me, it's got a few surprises hidden away.
So if you look at their mainline fleet now, it's pretty clear. It's all Airbus. And the real story here, the thing that jumps out, is just how many A320neos they have. These planes are the absolute workhorses for their shorter flights. So by focusing on them, it's a super clear signal that they're all in on efficiency and making things simpler. But here's a little secret, a really cool piece of trivia for you. They still have one single Boeing 737-700 flying around, but it's not for passengers. Nope, it's actually a flying hospital. It's a specially converted medevac jet that they operate for the Norwegian Armed Forces. How cool is that? Some of the cabin attendants are even trained nurses.
So to get to this sleek, all-Airbus fleet, SAS had to make some huge cuts. The entire fleet of Boeing 737s for passengers? Gone. The old four-engine A340s? Phased out. But the one move that had everyone in the industry scratching their heads was getting rid of those two almost new Airbus A350s back in 2023. This right here is the core of the whole puzzle. And the answer, the key to all of this, lies in a totally radical survival plan they kicked off back in February 2022. The airline was facing a massive financial crisis, so they launched this huge, all-encompassing transformation plan. They called it SAS Forward.
Now, this wasn't just, tweaking a few flight schedules. SAS Forward was a top-to-bottom, complete overhaul of the entire business. We're talking everything from the planes in their fleet to the contracts with their employees. Absolutely everything was on the table, because honestly, the airline's very survival was hanging in the balance.
And get this, the big headline number. The goal of this whole plan was to slash costs by 7.5 billion Swedish kroner. That's almost 800 million US dollars, just a staggering amount of money. So the key takeaway here is that this was purely about survival. There was no room for sentiment. Their fleet strategy was absolutely ruthless. Step 1, get rid of the older, less fuel-efficient jets. Makes sense. Step 2, simplify the fleet down to just a few types of aircraft. Why? To make everything, operations, pilot training, maintenance, way cheaper and easier. And that is the answer to our A350 mystery. Even though those planes were new and super efficient, they were an outlier. When every single penny has to be justified, keeping a tiny sub-fleet of just a couple of a specific long-haul jet was a luxury they just couldn't afford anymore.
And this quote from someone at the airline about the old A340s, man, it just says it all. There was zero room for nostalgia. Planes were just assets on a spreadsheet, and if the best financial move was to tear them apart for parts, then that's what they were going to do.
So, after all that pain, after all those tough decisions, did it actually work? The answer is a huge, resounding yes. The incredibly drastic measures they took with SAS Forward completely paved the way for a financial comeback and a totally new future for the airline. And the speed of this transformation was just breathtaking. Seriously, think about this timeline. In just a little over 2 years, SAS went from announcing this desperate survival plan to going into and coming out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, where they reorganize all their finances, and then immediately joining a brand new airline alliance. This wasn't just a recovery, it was a complete rebirth. Of course, a transformation like that doesn't happen on its own. It took a massive injection of cash. A $1.2 billion investment from a new group of owners, including the giant Air France-KLM, was the lifeline they needed. It's what allowed SAS to come out of all this as a much stronger, financially stable company.
And speaking of those new owners, that brought what is probably the single biggest change for SAS and its frequent flyers in more than 20 years. We're talking about a massive, monumental shift in airline alliances. I mean, this move just shows you how deep this transformation really went. SAS wasn't just in Star Alliance, they were a founding member. They helped create it, but with Air France-KLM, a cornerstone of the rival SkyTeam alliance, now in charge, the switch was pretty much a done deal. And it happened fast. On August 31st, 2024, they were in Star Alliance. The very next day, September 1st, they were in SkyTeam. Just like that.
And all of this brings our story right back to the beginning. After all the cuts, all the painful goodbyes to planes they had to make, SAS is finally in a position to do something it hasn't been able to do for years, and that is to grow.
And here is the ultimate proof that the whole strategy worked. The airline is now expecting 2 new Airbus A350s to join their fleet, the very same type of plane they so painfully had to get rid of. And on top of that, they've placed a massive order for 45 brand new, super efficient Embraer jets to totally refresh their regional fleet. This is what shrinking to grow looks like in the real world.
So, SAS has been through an absolutely incredible and very turbulent journey. It shrank itself down, it completely restructured, and it fundamentally changed its own identity, all just to survive. So now, with solid financial ground beneath its feet, new owners at the helm, and new planes on the horizon, the big question is this legendary Scandinavian airline finally cleared for takeoff into a successful future?